American history, Civil War history, and now Lake County history. So I was asked to talk a little bit about a similar topic, about the Grigsby Riffle, a little bit about the lake and some of the history that kind of revolved around. It's kind of interesting. I'll try to. This is actually like a 45-minute presentation. Also has slides, but I'm going to condense it down to hopefully 15 minutes here. So what's the Grigsby Riffle? Well, Clear Lake, oldest natural lake in North America, has lots of water that comes into it. You got creeks, you've got rivers, and you've got all this ways water can get into the lake, but there's only one way out, and that is Cach Creek. Cach Creek's the only way out. So as the water drains down, what keeps the water in the lake when it's not raining for a long period of time, there's a natural rock formation just up the road here. Last year you could actually see it when the lake was down below Zero Rumsey. It's called the Grigsby Riffle. Now I don't know exactly what the Grigsby Riffle looks like, but the impression I get, it's a natural rock ledge. It acts as a natural dam. And when, as he explained, when Rumsey came up, he was looking for a way to identify the measurements of the lake, and he determined, for whatever reason, I'm interested to find out why, he said when the lake is above Rumsey, it's pouring over the ledge, goes into Cach Creek, and when it hits zero, by definition, that means the water stops running. And if it goes below zero, then it's going to be negative. So sometimes, like last year, we heard that Rumsey was negative 1.5 or whatever the hell we got. And then when there's like 2 or 3, let's say 3 feet coming over it, that's when you hear it's 3 feet Rumsey. But it's based on the Grigsby Riffle. And this is an important element when it comes to water rights. And between us and Yolo County, there's like water wars going on. So this measurement's very, very important. So that's the geology behind it, but the history behind it is that because the water that flows over it goes into Cach Creek and runs down to Yolo County. Yolo County has a lot of agriculture, so they're relying on this water. So when it gets to Zero Rumsey historically, guess what happens to Cach Creek? It dries up. Once it's zero, no water comes over. But it preserves Clear Lake. Clear Lake then will still drop, but only through evaporation. So at some point, Yolo thought, we need to do something, so they started doing different water projects and things, and somewhere along the line, that's where Spring Lake came from.
Indian Valley.
And that's a reservoir that Yolo County can draw from, but they also need the Cach Creek Dam farther downriver. Now that doesn't keep the lake, affect the lake level, because even though it can be full back there, they can let out more water than can get into the channel, because where the Grigsby Riffle is actually kind of a tight channel. And water can go through the dam at a faster level than it can get through the Grigsby Riffle. So when we have a flood here, it's not necessarily because the dam's fault, that dam. It actually is because there's a log jam, basically, or a tight channel there going over the Grigsby Riffle, and that more water comes into the lake than you can get through that. But then once it drops down to zero, then the creek goes kaput. So Yolo, at one point, had an idea that during drought years, they noticed that the reservoir was actually going down to Cach Creek. So how can we release more water out of it? Well, the story I'm going to tell you is I think, a Lake County story, because the Yolo people have a different story. And I think the two narratives are related to our respective needs. Our need is to keep the lake as high as we can during the summertime. Their need is to get as much water out as they can in the summertime. So two stories have developed. The Lake County story is much more interesting, so I'm going to share. And it also has a Civil War connection. I'm a big nut on the Civil War. So anytime I can make a connection to the Civil War, I'm always going to do that. So at some point, the story goes is that Yolo County sent some engineers up here to open up the riffle, actually dynamite it open, to where then they could put like maybe a dam or dike there where they could release water into the channel down to their dam to keep that dam going, so that they could release water and turn down the creek for their own needs. And if that were to be successful in drought years, in theory, they would be able to keep draining the lake below zero, which in theory could drain our lake to where at some point it would just be a big mud hole. Because we have a shallow lake, you can't drain that thing 50 feet. It's only in some areas only 15, 20 feet. So you drain down another 15 or 20 feet, we have no lake. Well, of course, people in Lake County were upset about that. So when word got out that that's what they were up to, everybody's upset. But with any time there's a situation like that, you need a leader. You need to say, have somebody stand up and say, this is wrong, and follow me, and we're going to stop it. Everybody follows the guy out the door and they get in the posse. Well, the guy that did that back then was a guy by the name of Milos Gopčević. He was a Serbian refugee. And he actually got, our story is, he got some people together, formed a posse, and they went down there with guns and told these engineers, stop. This is a cease and desist, and they stopped, of course. We had more people, more guns, apparently, so the story goes. And he went on to Sacramento and filed a injunction or something that worked its way through the courts. And the courts ruled that we've got two conflicting needs. We have, Lake County has their needs about the water, and then Yolo has their needs about the water. So they came up with a ruling that helped try to include both needs. And today that ruling is known as the Gopčević decree. And it's still being discussed, it's still being used, it's still being applied. And the theory is that he didn't take the initiative to go down there and do that. Yolo might have had the opportunity to drain the lake out in certain severe years. So we're very grateful for him. His story is interesting, and this has nothing to do with the lake, but it kind of tells you about how history kind of intersects. Going back to the Civil War, there was a guy by the name of Richard Floyd. He was from Georgia. His state secedes. He's in the Naval Academy. He resigns and joins the Confederate Navy. Eventually, he's put on a ship called the CSS Florida. It's a surface raider that's sinking Yankee shipping in the Atlantic. So the Yankee Navy's after it. They trap the ship in a Brazilian port. And Brazil says, we're neutrals, there's going to be no fighting here. So the Yankee battle cruiser comes in, and the two ships are side by side. The Confederates don't trust them. The Portuguese at the time say, we'll make sure there's no shenanigans. Long story short, the Yankees kind of cheat. They attack it, they capture it, and they head out of the port, including Richard Floyd is captured. The Brazilian fleet went out after it, almost came to blows between the United States, but the war was almost over. They kind of, settled it down. But Richard Floyd now was released and sent to England, where he hoped he could get another Confederate ship, but the war ended, so he had nowhere to go because his plantation was destroyed. He comes to California. He comes to Lake County for work. Eventually, he goes back to San Francisco, and he gets on a mail carrier to Hawaii, where he's a captain. He meets a Southern family with a beautiful young daughter. They fall in love. They get married. Her dad happens to be very rich. He was the first Supreme Court justice in the first Supreme Court of California. He was very rich. He dies, leaves them this huge amount of money. He remembers Lake County, brings his bride to Lake County. She falls in love with it. They buy Conatai, they buy Rattlesnake Island, they buy Corcus Ranch, they build big houses. They become big parts of Lake County history. They have one daughter named Harry after Cora, the father. And she went by Hal, Harry Augustus Lyons Floyd, so her nickname was Hal, so she had two male names. Richard Floyd, went on to help build the Lick Observatory down in San Jose. An incredible endeavor. It wore him out. He dies at age 45 or something. His wife dies a month later, so the whole estate comes to Harry, who lives up in Lake County and also in San Francisco, where she has a mansion, and one day she gets in a cable car, and she meets Milos Gopčević, the one who actually did all this other stuff we talked about. And she falls in love with him. She brings him to Lake County and they get married. He claims he is of royal Serbian descent. She's all into that type of stuff because people thought she was crazy because she would do a lot of reading about Victorian age and Queen Victoria and Shakespeare. So if you didn't know her, you were introduced, and she'd go into this role play, but she wouldn't snap out of it. She would just do it and quit and go back to normal. The whole time you saw her, she'd be Macbeth or Queen Elizabeth or something. Her friends knew she was just doing it to be whatever she was doing. They didn't think she was crazy. She thought she was eccentric. Other people thought she was crazy. That came into play later because she was fascinated by this guy's story about being royal Serbian descent, which turned out to be true. He was part of a family that was a lot of political dealings going on there before World War I. And his family got thrown out. They were trying to get funds to go back and take back over. He saw in her a rich girl that was manipulatable. I'm going to marry her and use those funds to do what I need to do. So they got married. She brought him up here. They got married here up here in Lakeport. A month or two later, she's dead. She dies suddenly, kind of mysteriously in San Francisco, with nobody by her side except Milos. And he says, well, I'm really sad about my wife's passing, but guess what? She gave me a will just before she died and gives me virtually everything. The family sued, saying she was not of sound mind and he was up to no good, but the court here in Lakeport ruled in his favor, and he ended up with everything. And wasted a lot of those funds doing the Serbian, Macedonian war thing. But that's what got him to Lake County. And if it wasn't for all that happening, he might not have been here to lead the group to go over there. So when you, this last about that, where'd that come from? Oh, that was just nature. And maybe it was, but it just looks so man-made to me. And if it's true that that was cut by Yolo County, or that was Lake County water flowing to them, they make money off the water here. In theory, Lake County could say that water's ours and charge them back for it, and that would cause all kinds of crazy things. So the Grigsby Riffle might one day come up in our news as a very significant war between us and Yolo County, because water's pretty precious right now. People go to war over water. And that Grigsby Riffle is what keeps our lake the way it is. And if that channel isn't supposed to be there, that's an interesting, now when it's way up ahead, it doesn't matter. But when it gets to zero, it does matter. Because inches matter on this lake. When it's coming down, and if it drops an inch, every inch it drops, somebody can't launch a boat. Somebody can't use the lake. Some restaurant can't stay open. So it is important, and it only becomes an issue during drought years, but we're kind of in that situation right now. Any questions about all of that? Yeah.
Where exactly is the Grigsby Riffle?
You know where Lake Street is?
To the west of the lake?
Yeah, this would be to the west of the bridge.
So you see a gravel bed sticking out of the water, that's it.
At this point, you might be able to start seeing the